doing? And I have with me this morning the Gladstone Mayor Matt Burnett. Now, Matt, let's introduce yourself. Matt, how long have you been the Mayor of Gladstone?
Well, I've been the Mayor of Gladstone Regional Council since 2016, Deputy Mayor for 5 years, and I've been on Council for just over 20.
Wow. So are you a local?
Yeah, absolutely. My family's been here for about 5 generations. So my grandma was born in many peaks in the Boyne Valley. And actually on my children's mother's side, there was a great, and probably another couple of greats. Granddad was the Mayor as well.
Wow. Okay. So you do have a really good history with the region, which obviously comes into play in your current position. So, yeah. Matt, a lot of people that are in your role have got businesses or have businesses locally. Is that the case with yourself?
Yeah, I actually had a newspaper. I started a newspaper called the Port Curtis Post when I was about 19 years old. So I did that for a number of years and eventually sold that to Australian provincial newspapers. And, then I was just in publishing for a while and got into journalism is my actual career in the meantime, and worked for local radio, worked for newspapers, and then council became full-time. It was a part-time job between the year 2000 and 2008 on the Gladstone City Council, very small council at the time. When we amalgamated, we got over 10,000 square kilometres in the Gladstone region now, so it became a full-time job as a councillor and then obviously as mayor.
Okay, so for those that don't actually know, where exactly is Gladstone?
Well, it's in central Queensland, so between Bundaberg and Rockhampton, basically. So our region stretches from Rosedale in the south through to Raglan in the north and west to Many Peaks, and then out to beautiful Heron Island.
So how far exactly would that be from Brisbane or any of the other major centres?
So from Brizzy, it's about 5.5 hours from Brisbane driving on the Bruce Highway.
So actually that's fairly close to the major city, isn't it?
It is. Well, Bundaberg and Rockhampton, most people would know, they're large population centres. So we're about an hour to Rocky and about 2 hours to Bundaberg, give or take. Yeah.
And so what sort of population size do you have there at Gladstone?
Gladstone's somewhere between 68,000 people, and obviously we have a lot of major industry too. So sometimes with major shutdowns happening and construction work, we often have a larger fly-in, fly-out workforce as well.
So what you're talking about that. So what about the local economy and industry? What mainly drives your region?
Yeah. Well, I guess there's a couple of things. Tourism is one. In places like Agnes Waters, 1770, just beautiful. Australia's most northern surf beach in Agnes Water. Then we have the hinterland in the Boyne Valley and your Many Peaks, your Bobo and the Gurun and Bullion, and up to Mount Larkham and Raglan. But also in Gladstone City is where the major industry is. So we've got Queensland Alumina Limited, Rio Tinto, we've got LNG, we have power stations and those sorts of things. And of course the port is, the biggest economic driver for our community. With the port is what brings the industry along, I guess, and the industry supports local jobs and the port supports the economic viability, I guess, of Queensland. I mean, the funds that go back to Brisbane and right around Queensland and Australia for that matter from the Port of Gladstone is significant. In terms of royalties, and so I'd say major industry, the port are the biggest employers, but small business and tourism are certainly up there.
What about seasonal work? Is there much seasonal work? I mean, a lot of our listeners actually travelling around the country, and some of them are looking for seasonal or part-time work while they're caravanning around, particularly in this day and age when they're actually spending even more time on the road and limited to the regions that they can travel. This whole COVID thing, but is there much seasonal work there for them?
There is some, but it depends. A lot of it would be backpackers though. So in Agnes Water and places like that, there's a lot of employment opportunities for backpackers. But as you go into the rural sections, I'm sure there's some seasonal work there as well. So yeah, but as I said, majority of our employment is based on major industry. So I guess there's some seasonal work in terms of shutdowns, but if you're talking about caravan and campers looking for some work as they drive around the country, it'd be more so in the rural parts of the electorate. But
you do obviously cater for those caravanners because you have a number of caravan parks and free camping options and farm stays, etc. I take it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a number of caravan parks right around the regions, and we've got some overnight spots, and we also team up with Gladstone Area Waterboard, who's got some overnight camping spots. There's 12 commercial caravan parks across the region. And there's just a number of free camping spots as well. So I can, for those who are listening, if you don't mind, I'll mention a couple of the free ones. We've got at Futter Creek, Futter, Futter Creek Camping Reserve. So that's one the council makes available in the Boyne Valley area. And near that, just up the road, is Boyndale Bush Camp. We have the Calliope River Picnic Area, which is on the Bruce Highway. So as you're driving up past into our region, you go through Miriamvale, Barora and Bundaberg, and then just past Calliope there at the big Calliope Crossroads, there's a picnic area there, which is managed by council. There's Worklands Beach, day use area. Lily's Beach is beautiful at Boyne Island. I certainly can recommend that. You do need a permit to go to Lily's Beach. It's Lilley, in case anyone's trying to Google it. So, you can go camp on Lily's Beach and you wouldn't be disappointed. And that's in Boyne Island. So all the facilities that you need are very close by in Boyne Tannum. You've got shopping centres with Coles and Woolworths, and there's McDonald's, and there's bait and tackle if you want to go fishing, and there's certainly plenty of other chemists and banks and things as well. So plenty of retail opportunities just nearby in Boyne Island there.
So another thing that a lot of our listeners are actually dog or pet owners. Are they pet friendly caravan parks there?
Yeah, there is. If you're happy, I can list them for you, but I'll just go through a couple. I know in Boyne Island again, it's pet friendly. The Boyndale Bush Camp, small dogs are allowed. Discovery Parks in Tannum Sands, which is just across the bridge from Boyne Island, dogs are allowed there. Gladstone City Caravan Park, pets are friendly. In Baffle Creek, there's a pet-friendly caravan place as well. Kincora Village in the city is pet-friendly. Mount Larkham Tourist Park, that's on the Bruce Highway too. That's pet-friendly. Captain Cook Holiday Village at 1770, spectacular spot. You should definitely check that out. Their pets are allowed on application. And Agnes Waters Beach Holidays, pets are allowed on application as well. So there's certainly some options there for people who are taking their dog or cat or other pets with them, that's for sure.
Well, that's something, because a lot of them are worried about, where they can take their pets with them. So that's fantastic. So what about other things like 24-hour service stations?
Yep. So we have a number of those, and particularly as you're travelling into the region, you've got at Bundaberg there's two 24-hour. Well, I think they're both 24 hours, but there's certainly one 24-hour Caltex, and there's two across the road from each other. I think one of them might close a bit earlier actually, but one certainly is 24 hours at Bundaberg there, right on the Bruce Highway. As you travel through, you've got just before that rest stop I was talking about at Calliope. The Puma is 24 hour. That's at the travel centre there, and that's got a drive-through McDonald's as well. Caltex Boyne Island I mentioned. Melpas Street, that's if you go into the city itself. And of course, in Gladstone there's a 24-hour petrol station as well where the bus stop is. And I think Agnes Water Caltex is only open from 5 to 9, but there's a number of 24-hour petrol stations. I believe Mount Larkham is as well. So there's certainly a number of options for people as they're travelling through the region. They can stop. And if you're travelling, in reasonable daylight hours, and I know most caravan and campers like to pull over before it gets too dark, there's certainly plenty of options in Miriamvale, Barora, as you drive through into Bundaberg, Calliope, and then onto Mount Larkham if you're heading further north.
Matt, tell me, how important is tourism to the Gladstone region? How important is it to you?
It's very important. We are one of the biggest supporters of our Gladstone Area Promotion Development Limited, which is our regional tourism organisation. We also partner with the Discovery Coast Tourism and Commerce, which looks after in partnership with GAPDL, they look after the tourism in Agnes Waters 1770 and the Discovery Coast area as well. So council puts about $480,000 into that. So that's a significant amount of money that we put in. I know it's supported by Tourism Events Queensland as well. We have a very vibrant tourism sector, particularly in Agnes Water 1770, and as I said, Boyne Island, Tannum Sands, and the hinterland. So we want to make sure we can support that, and by bringing the caravan and camping market into the region is certainly very important to us. We've developed a Gladstone Region recreational vehicle strategy, and that idea of that is to encourage, not just grey nomads, but anyone travelling in their motorhome or their caravan or camper van around the state that they want to check out the Gladstone region as well. And
they can bring their pets.
Man, in many places they absolutely can. So, whether it's in the city or whether it's in those other, places right near the beach, or whether it's, out in the Discovery Centre in Yabobo is just spectacular. Plenty of places for families to or retirees to go and just relax and enjoy the amazing atmosphere out there.
So how heavily affected do you feel your region's been by the COVID-19?
Oh, probably the same as any community in Queensland or around Australia, probably not so much as Victoria, unfortunately, for those businesses down there have done it really tough. But in Queensland, it would be the same as most. And I think most of the, travelling around Queensland has become very popular. Our community certainly, we've had small businesses closed down. We've had others that wouldn't have survived without the JobKeeper program. We, during the initial impact of COVID, we set up a recovery committee, an economic recovery committee, and then a community recovery committee that was headed up by my Deputy Mayor, Khan Goodluck. So between Khan and myself, we were looking after the economic and community recovery, but got the right people in the room with us. So major industry were in there, small business were in there, and in terms of the community sector, we had the right people in the room as well. And we tried to target council funds, similar to the state and fed funds, to really making sure our economy and our local businesses recovered. And I think we've done fairly well. For the first time in the 20 years I've been on council, we complete rate freeze. So there's been no rate increase for all general ratepayers, except for major industry, of course. We had a conversation with them and we put theirs up just a small percentage, but everything else froze. So small business, light industry, rural and residential ratepayers got a rate freeze. And then we targeted some funding towards supporting those small businesses and especially those tourism operators to make sure that they can survive post-COVID.
So did you actually have any COVID-19 cases?
There was technically no, but there was one case from, I believe, a lady returning home who travelled from Brisbane straight back to her home just outside the city and self-quarantined, even self-quarantined from the husband. He went and stayed in, I think, a caravan out the back for 14 days and was all fine. And so I believe she'd had tested positive, but it was eventually cleared. So technically, no, we have had no cases really.
And that's really what it's all about, isn't it, Matt? If people are doing the right thing, and this lady obviously did, doing the right thing, we can avoid the problems that they had down south and keep us COVID free and open this state up a lot more and a lot safer for the years to come. And it is critically important not only for our health, which obviously is number one, but also for our economies. So I'm really pleased to hear that this lady in Gladstone has actually done the right thing.
Yeah, so, she was basically the poster child for what you should do in that situation. And Queensland Health, and obviously Central Queensland Health, were very impressed by the way she managed the situation. And if other people did the same, we wouldn't have half the issues that they're having, in Victoria. And
need I point out the fact that this lady obviously is a caravaner, because you just said that's where they went and stayed. So it just goes to show us caravanners aren't all bad at the best of times.
No, definitely not. And we'd love them to come into our region more often. So, as I said, there's those options all on the highway, but that they can move in, come into the city, come into Boyne, Tannum, go into Agnes Water, out to the valley. There's so many options for them to, use those free campsites, use those commercial facilities as well. There's just plenty of options for them.
Do you have any stats? Do you have any stats on how long they stay in your region when they get there?
Well, GAPDL does have stats like that, and what we find is most people, it's only sort of a day or two. What we find is actually what we have found with the Calliope River rest stop, and I know your listeners have probably heard this before, where some people say, they stop at the rest stop and they don't come in and use any of the facilities or spend any money in the community. We all know that's actual rubbish, because more often than not, caravan and campers may use the rest stop in Calliope or somewhere for a couple of days, but then they generally come into the city and stay overnight in a commercial facility as well. But even if they don't, they're still fueling up at the petrol station, still stopping into the chemist and getting supplies, going to the local coffee shop, or a new facility we've just opened. The Port Authority has spent considerable funds. It's called East Shores. So East Shore Stage 1 has been completed for a while, but East Shore Stage 1B has just finished, and that's where the cruise terminal is. Up until COVID hit, we were getting cruise ships coming into Gladstone quite regularly, and they've got this fantastic facility there where they can just come through. We have put on a big feast on East markets for them, and the cruise ships and the passengers just love it. So unfortunately COVID hit, but there's a cruise terminal there now, which is a really fantastic welcome facility for those cruise ship passengers when they do come back. But I recommend to your listeners to go and check it out. East Shores on Flinders Parade in Gladstone City and check out Auckland House, which is the new facility there. There's a microbrewery and everything. It is really spectacular, and it sits at the finish line of the Brisbane to Gladstone yacht race. So if you're here at Easter time, next Easter, with hopefully the yacht race is up and running again. Obviously COVID cancelled this year, but if the race is happening next Easter, Gladstone just comes alive with our Harbour Festival, and our Brisbane to Gladstone Village is just the best place to be. So if your listeners aren't sure when to come to Gladstone and they're travelling around Easter time, certainly don't drive past.
And of course, so you're having special events, and that's a good reason to come to Gladstone during those times. But I mean, for the rest of the year, there's still a bucket load of things that they can do, and a bucket load of things that should keep them there longer than that, 1 or 2 days. And we talk about things like, and I know that the area is really rich for fishing. So having fished Baffle Creek myself, so fishing's a very big part of what's available for them to do, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I'm glad you mentioned Baffle Creek, because this weekend just gone was the Baffle Creek Family Fishing Festival. So that's just a huge event for the Baffle Creek community, and so that goes from it's about a week-long event, and they have the family fun day on the Saturday, and everyone just has a great time. But we actually also host, I'm talking about Boyne a bit, but we also host Australia's largest family fishing festival, which is the Boyne Tannum Hookup. So I certainly can recommend people Google that. It was a virtual event this year, unfortunately, but it'll be back again next year. And there's other events we put on. As Luminous, it's a bit of a light show at our Botanic Gardens, at the Tondoon Botanic Gardens in the Gladstone City. That just won a Parks and Leisure Award, as in one of the best regional events, I think, for Queensland. We've done that twice now, and we'll be doing that bigger and better again next year. So if people jump on, visit Gladstone website or council's website, even gladstone.qld.gov.au, there's links to all of our tourism partners in terms of GAPDL and places like that. So they can certainly jump on and find more about what's going on in the region in terms of events or just what we have to offer. There's certainly plenty of choices. Yeah,
and of course we can't forget your beautiful national parks. I mean, that's another part of the Gladstone region. Just magnificent national parks.
Yeah, we certainly do. You've got the Crumbat Tops, where the beautiful Betsy is, where the plane crashed, I think, in World War II, and I'll probably get the stats wrong there, but there's still parts of the plane there that people always love to go up and check out. We have the Yarimbula National Park and the Deepwater National Park in the southern part of the area. The Deepwater National Park, listeners might be aware, that's where the major bushfires were in 2018, and it was just massive. Well, Queensland's largest bushfire ever was through that Deepwater National Park, but it's come back and it's looking fantastic again. But Yarimbula National Park is always very popular as well, so fantastic spots for people to pull up and check it out.
And of course, also arts and crafts play a big part in your region as well.
Yeah, well, and art particularly. Our Gladstone Regional Art Gallery and Museum is one of the best regional galleries in Queensland, if not Australia. We have the Martin Hanson Memorial Art Awards every year with over $10,000 for just one of the prizes. It's certainly a very popular art competition, but we also have the Golden Showcase, and we have Intercity Images with our sister city in Japan, where all the photos from the Gladstone region are shared with the residents of Saiki, and all the photos from Saiki come back to Gladstone, and then they have a joint exhibition as well, where the pick of all the best photos are put together, and that's been going on for about, I think, 20 years now. And so we've got a great collection of photos from right across our region, as Saiki does with their community. That's just one. I mean, there's plenty of options. We have a very vibrant cultural section, that's for sure, in Gladstone. And
of course, you can pick up a lot of that sort of stuff in your magnificent markets.
Yeah, and markets we have, unfortunately, the BAM markets, which is Beach Arts Music, BAM, that's at Tannum Sands at Millennium Esplanade. They're on hold at the moment because of COVID, but they are usually held every month, I think, except for maybe December or January, and they're very popular. So I would certainly recommend listeners check onto the BAM website or the BAM Facebook and check out when they're coming back again, because they're fantastic. There's live music right on the beach there at Tannum Main Beach, and markets all the way along Millennium Esplanade, so there's plenty of options. The Calliope River Historical Village, they have markets there, I think, 6 times a year, and at the Gladstone Tondoon Botanic Gardens again, the Rotary Clubs run a market there once a month. So that's just those. There's other markets in the Discovery Coast at 1770. Miriam Vale have markets. The Lions Club run the markets there, just off the highway in what's the park? In the Lions Park there, and Alf Larson Park. I was trying to think. We have a Tom Jeffrey Park in Agnes Water Main Beach and Alf Larson Park there in Miriam Vale, and that's a fantastic playground. If some of your listeners have young children, just off the highway, off the main highway there, literally turn off one street and you're in the main street of Miriam Vale, and there's plenty of food options. There's plenty of there's some other craft and retail options as well. There's a nice little pub, but the playground for the kids is fantastic, and there's plenty of room for caravan and campers to pull up. There's a massive car park with a dump point and all the facilities you could possibly want. So in terms of RV friendly, you won't find more RV friendly town than Miriam Vale, that's for sure, on the Bruce Highway.
You know, it's funny. I asked all my guests to share a couple of secrets, you know, maybe 2 or 3 secret places, things that they know about that isn't necessarily mainstream. And I know you've already told us a couple, but I'm sure you've got a couple more up your sleeve that you could share with us. Well,
there's a couple that they may not be aware of, but it depends on whether, you know, you don't have to be too fit to climb Mount Larkham, but I certainly would recommend, if you can fit it in, if they're staying in the region for a few days, to climb Mount Larkham and check out, do it when it's a clear day so you can check the view out from the top. It's just spectacular. That's certainly one thing. For the more adventurous, if they were keen to go out to one of the islands, we've got some of the best islands in the southern Great Barrier Reef. Heron Island, obviously, you can stay on, so you can catch the boat out there. Heron Islander, there's a chopper option if you're not too keen on getting on the boat. There's even a seaplane. Amazing coral, and there's obviously great dive options for Heron Island. But you can also, from 1770, you can go to Lady Musgrave, you can go to Lady Elliot Island, Fitzroy Reef Lagoon. There's just such, in terms of the Great Barrier Reef, the southern Great Barrier Reef has been saved. A lot of the coral bleaching that happened a lot further north. I'd say our reef is the most pristine part of the reef at this point in time, if not always. So that's some reef options. You could certainly climb Mount Larkham, as I was saying before. The beautiful Betsy and the Crumbit Tops is something worth checking out. Or just come and check out that East Shores that I was saying before in Gladstone City. There's just so many different options for them, and we'd love to welcome them to the community, that's for sure. If they go to the Gladstone Marina, the information centre there, the volunteer ambassadors would love to help them out. We have a number of places. There's a visitor information centre in Agnes Water as well, and there's some little pop-up ones in Miriam Vale, and I believe it's happening in Mount Larkham as well. So there's plenty of options for them to find the information. But if they come into the city, go to the Gladstone Marina next to where the Heron Island check-in is, and you'll be able to meet our volunteer ambassadors, and they'd certainly love to give you all the information about the Gladstone region and the Southern Great Barrier Reef.
You know, I wish we had a lot more time up our sleeve, because a lot of the places that you've mentioned, there's so much more that we could talk about. I mean, 1770 is iconic from its name, but, you know, those islands that you've spoken about, I mean, we could probably spend hours talking about each and every one of these individual centres. So, you know, I'm going to remind people again that when you go through something like this and you say, look, I'm going to head north, and they end up spending, 2,000 kilometres travelling to get to a point and missing so much on the way, really from Brisbane, well, what is it, 5 or 6 hours, did we say? Or 7 hours, whatever.
5.5 hours to 5.5, depending on where you're going to,
So 5.5 hours, and we're in a region which you could basically spend months and months in if you wanted to, and still not do everything. I guess a lot of people probably go up there and do spend a few weeks there and end up spending a lifetime there too. I would imagine that's a fairly popular thing in the Gladstone region.
A lot of people have moved to Gladstone in the 60s and the 70s for work, and are retiring here now. So, and even if you get in, you can get on the Curtis Ferry services, and you can go out to one of the harbour islands. You can go to the south end of Curtis Island, and there's camping options there. You can there's a barge, so you can take your motorhome with you. That's certainly for south end. I wouldn't recommend taking the motorhome to Facing Island, but you can certainly camp there and enjoy the facilities there as well. But you could actually put the motorhome on the barge. The Curtis Ferry services go over Curtis Island. There's a little shop there, and there's community centre as well. So there's plenty of options there for you to check out. just inside the harbour itself. So yeah, there's just a whole range of options. We have got another website, which is that it's the Gladstone Regional Council one, so it's gladstone.qld.gov.au, and then it's just RV-friendly-information. So if they jump on and check that out, there's all the information for RV-friendly options and sites and our recreational vehicle strategy as well.
You know, Matt, I've spoken to a lot of mayors throughout Australia, and rarely do I find a mayor that's got so much information, knows so much about their region, has such a big area to deal with, and such an incredibly rich history themselves on that. I think Gladstone should be really, really delighted to have you as their mayor. I've certainly found it a delight to be listening to you today. And on behalf of my audience, I'd like to thank you for taking up the time and sharing that with us this morning. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks, Roy.
Cheers.
Thanks, mate. All right. See you later.
Beautiful. Thanks, Matt.
Bye.
The chimney top, that's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. And the dreams that you dare to, why, oh, why can't I?